From trauma to joie de vivre. How is that possible? Welcome to Post-Trauma Secrets and Decluttering, where we go behind the scene and reveal how to free yourself. Come and discover the 4 dimensions of a decluttering journey with your hosts, Valerie and JM Tetro.
Welcome to today's podcast. We'll talk about, can you really recover from trauma? Because we've been asked many times and we accept the challenge. We will answer that question with something you might not expect. We've been for 12 years as first responder, Valerie and I, and we've seen a lot of wounds. Many physical wounds of many degree or levels, but mental wounds that we often call someone in shock in the first aid world. And what we've discovered is amazing, is there's a parallel in the healing of the physical and the mental way. So when someone heals physically, if we do not take care of the wound, what happened? Well, it get infected, it get red and get really bad and really painful. But if you treat it with the proper bandage, the proper antiseptic and all the product that you need and the proper steps, process, well, it works and it get healed and you get a scar and you even forget about it. Well, can this happen in the mental world from trauma? What we've seen is, yes, it can happen that way.
So just as a comparison, when we talk about having a wound, it's the moment right after the traumatic event, the impact of the trauma on your life. It's fresh, it's new, it's just the beginning of a journey of recovery. And from there, you need to take a decision to heal, because you can let it go and it will just get worse, as JM just mentioned. But you can take the decision, no, I want to heal. I will stop scratching it and I will really take the process to heal and recover for real. So in the healing process, there is 4 steps. So the first one is stop the bleeding, or we can say hemostasis. The second step is scabbing over or clotting. The third step is rebuilding or growth and proliferative. And finally, the fourth step is maturation or strengthening. And after that, you will arrive to a scar.
So let's take them one by one and compare them. Because we believe this is the way you can treat both physical and mental from trauma wounds. So stop the bleeding. We're talking about the first thing you need to do. It's to remove the danger, remove the external object that caused the wound. And from a mental perspective, we say it's to remove or avoid the triggers. This is what reminds you of the trauma. The same thing that happened with the wound, the physical wound.
As trauma in mental health or post-traumatic stress disorder, if it's diagnosed, we are talking about controlling the stress, stopping the bleeding, controlling the stress. So this is the moment where we want to reduce it so we are able to avoid panic attack, we are able to manage fear, we do not develop anxiety, and we are really controlling our environment in the sense of avoiding stressful situation. So from there, we'll go in the second step, scabbing over. So that step is the moment where we start to build the clot. So we need to protect it. We need to isolate from stressful situation. Otherwise, it won't be able to build the clot. So in the mental health, it's the moment to really say, I take a decision, I am taking ownership of my recovery, of taking action to recover. It's not just I let it go and it will heal by itself. No, I will take action to be able to rebuild my life and recover from my trauma.
And at that step, at the scabbing over, what are the dangers? So let's look at the physical wound. The physical wound, you get infection. This is the worst, right? Is any bacterial or any object external that doesn't belong there may cause infection, and you don't want them there. From the mental world, it's really your negative belief, limiting belief, any thought that will bring you down. We're talking about mindset and take control of your thought. On the physical world, what are you tending to do if you get infected? Well, you scratch and it gets worse. Well, the same thing happens in the mindset or in the mental state from trauma. Is self-harming behavior, and they are even physical at some point, and loss of control, loss of emotion. Now at the rebuilding state, the state at that point is the wound is clean and stable. So from the mental state is the emotion and thought are controlled. They are less all over the place and less negative.
So at that point, we see a fresh scar, but it's still feeling like I'm being hurt. I'm still affected by my trauma. So we are rebuilding. So it's time to develop new habits, to build routine, and take action that will completely change your life. I remember at that point, I was not knowing what is my favorite meal anymore. I was not knowing what activities or leisure or passion that I have. I was kind of neutral, and I had to discover, to rebuild and choose what I want in my life now. Not what I was loving before, what I want now in my life. And finally, the fourth step of the healing process is maturation. So at that point, the scar is built. It's still healing, even if we don't see that it's still healed. So it looked closed and repaired. It's itchy, pink, it's stretched. So in the mental aspect of it, it's like when we say, instead of saying I have a bad day, it's kind of, oh, I'm falling back. It's always that scare of falling back, that it's still there because we are still in the healing process, even if it's not seen by her eyes. So what is important to remember is everyone can have a bad day, not just people that have trauma. Everyone can have a bad day, and this is not necessarily a fallback.
So at that point, you're really more solid in your physical wound. It's clean. Now you can move around, you can do things, but you will avoid or place away the danger that was there. Well, we'll do the same thing in the trauma, in the mental world. We'll clean up our environment. We'll remove what are triggers, what does not belong, because as you know, we talk a lot about that. Clutter will worsen your trauma. So remove anything from the environment that may get you back in the trauma, and rebuild your nest and rebuild your friends network, and come back to activity that you like and love. That is the strengthening step.
And finally, you arrive at the scar. So your life is changed forever because you had a trauma. The scar is there. Yes, you're not going back to the life before. Even with a physical wound, you will see the scar on your arm, for example. It will be there, but you will forget it. You won't take attention on it every single day. So at that point, you need to create your new life. It's your new standard. It's a life worth living, It's really, really what you want in life to have it and live it and experience it.
You know, there's a good story I like to use for that one. I had a big wound when I had my first motorcycle or small size, small model, but I injured my leg so bad that the scar stayed there forever. It's still there. I see it, but I don't think about it. It doesn't bring me down. But for years, my mother would remind me of the danger of just being around or in bicycle or on the motorcycle because of that. And that was bringing me down. But the fact that I detached myself and I said, no, I'm safe. I know how to deal with my environment. Now, the scar is gone and the trauma from the scar is gone.
Wow, that's amazing. So, if you want to accept the challenge and you want to really recover yourself, you need to take action. You need to decide to do not scratch anymore and let it heal and recover.
Thank you so much for taking time to listen to this episode. If you want to help break the trauma stigma, share this episode and give hope to your friends and let them know it is possible to get free from trauma. Valerie and JM want to help you further by offering you Declutter Your Life 101. Be sure to go to dowellht.com/free yourself. That's dowellht.com/free yourself to get your free quick summary and start your decluttering journey. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to join us next time to discover another secret on post-trauma secrets and decluttering.